It's almost 8 p.m. Cairo local time, and you're now watching Q News. We start with the latest developments in the Middle East.
הסכסוך הזה הוא לא על היעדר מדינה פלסטינית, אלא קיומה של מדינה יהודית. אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה. האויב ישלם מחיר שהוא לא ידע מותו. זהו השלב השני של המלחמה, שמטרותיה ברורות. זה לא דרום אפריקה, זה לא אנחנו שבאנו לבצע רצח עם. America and Israel must stand together. מי שרוצה החטופים לא רוצה עסקה.
Ultra-Orthodox protesters near Tel Aviv have clashed with police after the Israeli military called up more of their members. This comes after Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid has called for measures against ultra-Orthodox Jews known as the Haredim, who continue to refuse military service. Earlier, the Supreme Court ruled in June that Jewish seminary students can no longer receive blanket exemptions from the military service. Israeli police have reported that 2 flash bombs landed in the garden of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's home in Caesarea. Though he and his family were not present and no damage was caused, Defense Minister Israel Katz condemned the attack as a serious provocation and called for decisive action. Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog denounced the incident and confirmed an investigation, while Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir criticized the growing incitement against Netanyahu, labeling the bombing as a severe escalation. The incident has sparked calls for increased security and judicial intervention.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين. وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بيخوف.
Israeli occupation forces have launched 4 waves of airstrikes on Beirut's southern suburbs since the early morning. The Lebanese media stated that Israeli warplanes launched at least 4 violent airstrikes on Har Tahrik, with most reported as powerful. An Israeli strike on Beirut's Ras al-Nab'a has reportedly killed Hezbollah's media relations chief, Mohammed Afif. The Lebanese security sources confirmed the information to Reuters, though there has been no immediate confirmation from Hezbollah. The strike targeted a building housing the Ba'ath Party offices, and Ali Hijazi, the head of the party in Lebanon, confirmed to local media that Afif was inside the building at the time of the attack. The conflict between Hezbollah and Israel escalates as Israeli airstrikes target 120 Hezbollah sites across southern Lebanon, and Hezbollah retaliates with rocket barrages into northern Israel.
The ongoing conflict between Hezbollah and Israel has reached alarming levels, with both sides engaging in intensified hostilities. Israeli forces launched extensive airstrikes across southern Lebanon, targeting approximately 120 sites linked to Hezbollah, including weapons, storage facilities, and operational infrastructure. In retaliation, Hezbollah fired rocket barrages into northern Israel, further escalating regional tensions. Reports from Beirut highlight significant destruction in Lebanese towns near the border, particularly in Tyre and Ben Jibel, where civilian displacement and worsening humanitarian crisis have compounded the toll of the conflict. Lebanese media describe scenes of devastation as authorities grapple with the mounting challenges. In Israel, the conflict has sparked protests against the prolonged hostilities, prompting high insecurity around Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's residence. Netanyahu reaffirmed Israel's commitment to taking decisive action against Hezbollah while maintaining a defensive posture. The intensifying violence has fueled concerns about the potential for a broader regional confrontation. Amid the growing crisis, Lebanese authorities are actively coordinating international efforts to address the humanitarian fallout and are calling for an immediate ceasefire. Diplomatic engagement from neighboring countries and major global powers remains essential to prevent further escalation and pave the way for de-escalation. As the conflict deepens, the international community faces mounting pressure to mediate and mitigate the devastating impact on civilians and regional stability.
And for more analysis, we now move to Mona in our newsroom. To you, Mona.
Thank you so much, Hala. And for further analysis on the escalating tensions in Lebanon's southern suburb, we're joined from Beirut by the researcher and political writer Serouj Abkian. Good evening and welcome to Qnews. Now, how has the Israeli escalation in southern Lebanon impacted Hezbollah's operations and the overall security and stability situation in Lebanon?
Greetings, everybody. In fact, we have been anticipating this military escalation from the end of the Israeli occupation forces in light of the transition of the American presidency. We were just expecting this, that Netanyahu is going to further escalate his military operations just to seize the opportunity and achieve as many of his field and strategic goals as he possibly could. In fact, this comes with a multitude of impacts. The political impact is represented by the Iranian negotiator who has been working with the American ambassador to Iran in order to bring a ceasefire. And as well, on a strategic level, we have been seeing that some targets are being pounded by the Israeli occupation forces. But both the political and the strategic goals of Israel are now getting in contact with the military media of Hezbollah. We've seen how the spokesperson of Hezbollah had been targeted today, and in fact this as well once more attests to the fact that Netanyahu is trying to seize the opportunity as the ruling authority in the United States is changing right now. We can see as well that the residential areas being pounded in Lebanon are affiliated with Hezbollah and are incubating some military pieces of weaponry once more relating to Hezbollah. We have seen the striking of Burj al-Barajina and other regions. In fact, and the region of Al-Shiakh and Al-Hadath as well. These two regions as well got pounded, and so the pace of the escalation is on the increase.
Right. Can you tell us the abouts of the assassination of Mohammed Afif and his role as the media chief in Hezbollah?
In fact, Mohammed Afif is actually more than just a media official for Hezbollah. He's not just the spokesperson of Hezbollah, but he had been managing the media ring of media persons working under the auspices of Hezbollah. It is as well alleged that he was writing all the statements of Hezbollah, and Mohammed Afif is not actually somebody who is a newcomer to Hezbollah. He's among the founders of the party. And during the time of al-Musawi and as well during the time of Hezbollah, it is alleged that he was the one writing the statements of Hezbollah and the major headlines that were to be disseminated to the means of mass media. And he, in fact, is an eagle in his arena, and he is not a lenient politician. He is actually an extremist, I would say, and somebody who is extremely set out in his creeds and beliefs. And so the targeting of him had been strategic target for Israel, specifically, as Israel had been escalating its offensives, he started taking part in this war in the actual battlefield by disseminating the statements of Hezbollah.
From your point of view, what are the underlying motivations behind Israel's airstrikes in Lebanon? And are they purely military, or do they serve a broader political purpose?
In fact, there are definitely announced goals and goals that are clandestine for Israel. In fact, the announced goals are represented by the demolishing of Hezbollah infrastructure and any kind of military resistance force to Israel, including the camps and all these things. And as well, there's another goal for Israel, which is to return the northern settlers of Israel back to Lebanon. But I believe that there are other goals that are actually latent, and they have to do with the Syrian side. And in fact, these goals aim to establish a safe haven for Israel, not just in the south of Lebanon, but as well inside of Syria. These are goals that are far from Lebanon, and in fact, Israel is not just tracking Hezbollah in Lebanon, but as well they are trying to attack the resistance in Syria and in Iraq later, I believe. As well, Israel is now trying to lead the region politically and to impose its influence. And this war, in fact, is going to help Israel to terminate its adversary. And after that, Israel, after the war, has a goal to normalize with a lot of Arab countries, one Arab country at a time, in order to bring forth a new Middle East, and it wants to lead the region from Israel to Syria to Lebanon and to be, presiding over the entire region. And Israel, when finally it announces victory in this war, it'll just announce that it, along with its allies, are going to lead the region.
And that was researcher and political writer Serouj Abikyan. Thank you so much for your analysis and your insights here. And back to you, Hala.
Thank you very much, Mona. The Israeli occupation forces have ordered the evacuation of residents from over 15 towns and villages in southern Lebanon. The latest orders targeted areas including Hadath, Har Tahrik, and Burj al-Barajna. The occupation army spokesperson, in an Arabic statement, warned residents to leave immediately, citing preparations for airstrikes. Israeli airstrikes on Hadath and other areas in Beirut's southern suburbs have caused widespread devastation. The residents reported loud explosions during the strikes, followed by plumes of smoke rising from the damaged sites. An Israeli airstrike has targeted a building in Beirut's central Ras al-Nab neighborhood, killing one person and injuring three. This marks the first such attack in nearly a month. The strike hit the busy area without a warning, with local media identifying the building as a bath party center. The Israeli occupation forces have reported that around 20 projectiles were detected crossing from Lebanon into Israel, with some intercepted by the Israeli air defense system. The projectiles were identified after sirens were activated in Haifa Bay and Western Galilee. The emergency services did not report any injuries. Moving on to the latest developments in Gaza. Dozens of Palestinians have been killed or wounded in a deadly Israeli airstrike on Beit Lahia. The strike targeted a five-story building housing displaced families early this morning, causing significant casualties and extensive damage. Gaza's civil defense reports that at least 26 people were killed and 59 others are still missing. At least 8 Palestinians have been killed and several others have been injured in Israeli airstrikes that targeted Al Brij refugee camp in central Gaza. The Palestinian media reported that the Israeli occupation forces launched a series of airstrikes on residential buildings in Al-Nusayrat and Al Brij camps. The occupation forces also targeted the northwestern areas of Gaza City, causing widespread damage overnight. The Palestinian Ministry of Health has condemned last night's Israeli military raid on its health clinic in the village of Kobar, northwest of Ramallah. According to the ministry, a large Israeli military force forcibly broke down the clinic's doors and stormed the building late last night. In a statement, the ministry described the assault as a blatant violation of international law and called on the international community to take immediate action to protect Palestinian health workers and medical infrastructure. Russia has announced carrying out attacks on several Ukrainian targets, including a military airport, while Ukraine reported successfully repelling multiple Russian offensives in the past 24 hours. In its daily report, Russia's Ministry of Defense claimed its forces seized control of 2 settlements in Donetsk and targeted Ukraine's energy infrastructure, a military airfield, and drone production facilities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says that Russia launched approximately 120 missiles and 90 drones in a massive combined airstrike targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure. As missiles were intercepted over Kiev, the residents sought shelter in the city's underground metro stations. Zelensky stated that the strikes caused damage to infrastructure across Ukraine, with debris falling on sites across the city. A Russian drone attack has reportedly killed 2 women and injured 6 others in the Ukrainian city of Mykolaiv. The local officials added that another 2 people were killed in the Odessa region after Russia attacked the region's energy infrastructure with missiles. In the Lviv region on the border with Poland, a woman in a car was killed. Local Ukrainian emergency services said that the firefighters were hosing down flames in residential neighborhoods. To economic news, Mauricio Claver-Caroni, an advisor to Donald Trump's transition team, has proposed extending tariffs on Chinese goods in the line with the promises made by the president-elect to include items passing through a new port built by Beijing in Peru. China inaugurated the Shanghai port on November 14th, with President Xi Jinping highlighting its role in creating a direct shipping line from Shanghai to Shanghai, reducing shipping items and lowering logistics costs. U.S. gasoline imports dropped significantly in October as the domestic fuel sector flourished. The imports averaged 320,000 barrels per day, marking the lowest monthly figure in at least a decade. According to oil price, imports are expected to reach only 318,000 barrels per day this month, the lowest level since January 2017. American bank trading accounts exceeded $1 trillion in Q3, reaching their highest level in over 16 years. This growth has highlighted banks' exposure to market fluctuations. JP Morgan Chase led the industry with trading accounts totaling $506 billion, nearly half the sector's total, up from $329 billion at the start of the year. The Financial Times has reported that Hungary has emerged as the primary destination for Chinese capital in Europe, accounting for over a quarter of Chinese investments in the continent over the past 2 years. This surge, including investments in electric vehicle factories, has provided a much-needed boost to Hungary's struggling economy, which has suffered due to the EU withholding 20 billion euros in funding over rule of law concerns. And that brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here is what we have been covering. Ultra-Orthodox protesters clash with police near Tel Aviv as the Israeli military increases draft calls for their community. Israeli strike on Beirut's Ras al-Nab'a reportedly kills Hezbollah media chief Mohammad Afif. And Israeli airstrike on Al-Bureij refugee camp in Gaza killed at least 8 Palestinians and injured several others. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Q News EG to stay informed. Thank you very much for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.